Hello, everybody. Welcome to this new webinar on greenwashing in seafood, in the seafood sector. Today's webinar is about true sustainability or greenwashing in seafood. But let's dive into our webinar on greenwashing in seafood. Greenwashing is the process of providing misleading information to make people believe a company is doing more to protect the environment than it really is. And I think it's important to highlight, to focus on the words more than it really is, because it is often the case that greenwashing companies might be already doing something to reduce their impact on the environment, but they untruly claim they are doing more. Unlike sustainability and regeneration as words, the phenomenon of greenwashing is a younger one. Not much is reported on corporate greenwashing before the 80s, but before it was even a thing, companies were already misleading folks with contradicting messages. The now defunct American electrical company Westinghouse faced opposition from the 1960s anti-nuclear movement, which raised concerns about safety and environmental impact. The response from Westinghouse? A series of ads touting the virtues of nuclear energy. One was so bold as to use the phrase neat, clean, and safe. Sure, nuclear plants generate electricity with lower levels of pollution compared to their coal-fired counterparts. That's true. But let's not ignore the environmental effects of nuclear waste. Plus, the campaign came out after the nuclear meltdowns happened in Michigan and Idaho. While not an outright lie, it's the kind of convenient environmental prevarication that was the precursor to the greenwashing that we know today. In 1983, environmentalist Jay Westervelt went surfing in Fiji, where he encountered a note at the resort urging guests to reuse towels in order to help the environment. But there was a contradiction. The same resort was in the middle of an expansion, knocking down masses of Mother Nature to make way for businesses. Taking note, Westervelt published a magazine essay in 1986 about deceptive environmental practices in the media, recalling his revelation from 3 years earlier. It all comes out in the greenwash. That was the phrase that started the use of this word. You can see that this first witty mention is where the term started to catch on. Here's how mentions of greenwashing have evolved over time, looking through books, articles, studies, and documents. As the 1980s unfolded, so did environmental consciousness. The oil industry in particular was forced to reevaluate its public image amid mounting scrutiny from activists and concerned citizens worldwide. In 1986, Chevron launched its notorious People Do advertising campaign, a PR stunt to portray itself as an environmentally responsible organization. The TV spots depicted Chevron's purported commitment to wildlife preservation and environmental stewardship, featuring lush landscapes and thriving fauna. None of the usual dirty grime many of us associate with the oil and gas industry today. And I will show you this video of this ad.
In a den high in Montana's Blackfeet country, a grizzly settles for a long winter's nap. Unaware that down below, people with motors and machinery will explore for oil through deep winter. But before she wakes, the people will be gone. The explored land will be replanted so it will soon look as if no one had ever been there. Do people sometimes work through the winter so nature can have spring all to herself? People do.
And they weren't alone in the greenwashing game. In 1989, chemical company DuPont unveiled its double hull oil tankers. Their advertisements paired the footage of jubilant animals clapping, frolicking, jumping, and more to the soundtrack of Beethoven's Ode to Joy. And I will show you also this video for your
Recently,
eyes
DuPont announced
pleasure.
that its energy unit Conoco would pioneer the use of new double-hulled oil tankers in order to safeguard the environment. The response has been overwhelmingly positive. DuPont, better things, better living. Recently, DuPont announced
Since year 2000, greenwashing is already considered malpractice, and yet it didn't stop corporations from misbehaving for 20 more years or so. The Volkswagen emissions scandal, sometimes known as Dieselgate, began in September 2015, when the United States Environmental Protection Agency had found that Volkswagen had intentionally programmed TDI diesel engines to activate their emissions controls only during laboratory emissions testing, which caused the vehicle's nitrogen oxides output to meet US standards during regulatory testing. However, the vehicles emitted in reality up to 40 times more in the real world driving. In 2008, the Advertising Standards Agency, ASA, in the UK, reprimanded EasyJet after an advertisement claimed a significant reduction in CO2 emissions compared to traditional airlines, without clarifying that the claim was based on emissions per passenger rather than total emissions. While it took nearly 30 years since its inception, greenwash finally made it into the dictionary in 2022. Searches for greenwashing and related information peaked around the same time. The good news is that things are slowly changing for the better. People are much more aware and discerning. And more importantly, the law is catching up, which means brands are becoming infinitely more cautious about what they put out there in the advertisements and in their claims. The UK's Competition and Market Authority has been granted the ability to fine companies for misleading consumers, which could lead to a crackdown on greenwashing. The CMA, the Competition and Markets Authority of the UK, has launched in 2021 a Green Claims Code, which outlines, as you see, 6 principles that businesses must follow to ensure they comply with consumers' protection law. These principles include being truthful and accurate, clear and unambiguous, and not omitting or hiding relevant information. The CMA investigated into claims of fashion companies such as ASOS, Boohoo, and George at ASDA, but also Unilever. The conclusion after a nearly 2-year review puts all businesses on notice. Greenwashing claims are also being targeted by the Advertising Standards Authority, ASA. The ASA accepts and investigates complaints from a wide range of stakeholders, including consumers, competitors, and NGOs. According to the ASA's most recent annual report, it secured the amendment or withdrawal of 27,378 advertisements in 2023, an average, imagine, of roughly 535 per week. A well-known case that was resolved by ASA was related to Scottish salmon farmer Loch Duart. In February, an anti-fish farming blogger, Fish Business, complained to the ASA about an image on Loch Duart's website describing the company as sustainable. The complaint cited evidence suggesting that it was inaccurate because of the environmental damage caused by salmon farms. In response, the ASA said the complaint was valid and asked Loch Duart to make the change. Because Loch Duart promised to stop claiming to be sustainable, the ASA decided to close the case without launching a formal investigation. Loch Duart was listed by the ASA as a complaint that had been informally resolved. In the EU, some of the strongest laws against greenwashing have been established or are imminent. The final green light to ban generic environmental labeling without strict substantiation or certification was given in January 2024 by means of the new directive EU 2024-825, which will have to be applied by EU member states at the latest by the 27th of September 2026. The new directive's principle most relevant to the seafood industry is that sustainability labels not based on approved certification schemes or established by the public authorities will be banned. As far as approval method requested by the directive, as you can see from the text itself, it is clear that it must be compliant with the regulation 765 of year 2008. This regulation mandates that accreditation of certification bodies and certification schemes can only be carried out by national accreditation bodies in the EU. So, and you can see member states should not maintain more than one national accreditation body. Any other would be an infringement. In order to better understand, and for those of you who are not fully knowledgeable on the matter of certification and accreditation, let me show you a graph which might enlighten you, let's say, about the subject. Certification bodies, as you see at the bottom, are those who carry out the audit to verify compliance with standards developed by certification schemes, like Friend of the Sea. Accreditation bodies, so these would be, the certification bodies would be organizations like SGS, DNV, Control Union, etc., etc. Accreditation bodies instead are like UCAS, ANAB, Accredia, DAX, and so on, are the only ones authorized accreditation bodies, at least in the EU, and they are those who verify the work carried out by the certification bodies. They audit the certification bodies according to the certification scheme procedures. On top, there is IAF, the International Accreditation Forum, which approves the accreditation bodies, which in turn recognize the certification schemes under IAF multilateral agreement. So this is the pyramids which is accepted and predefined also by law at the EU level. Well, Friend of the Sea is the only certification scheme for seafood having been recognized by IAF MLA and by accreditation bodies such as ANAB, Accredia, CAN, and SLAB, and so on. Another certification scheme which has been recognized by a good number of accreditation bodies is Global Gap for Aquaculture. As you can see, Friend of the Sea is in fact one of the 9 certification schemes worldwide in history ever recognized under IAF MLA, multilateral agreement. Among the others are ISO, BRC, IFS, CEDEX, and Global Gap, which is also a major agriculture certification. No other sustainable seafood certification from fisheries has been recognized. So going back to the regulation that we were looking in the previous slides, does it mean that those other seafood sustainability labels will be deemed unacceptable? It all still depends on the case-by-case decision of authorities. Even though the regulation is quite clear, if the certification is not approved by a national accreditation body, it is at risk of greenwashing. Another important new requirement of the EU directive on greenwashing is that certification scheme must be open to all companies willing and able to comply with the scheme's requirement. This should in principle exclude national level certification, country level certifications, which are not open by definition to external fishing fleets or seafood producers in general. There are some in Iceland, some in Alaska, some in Japan. At least this is my interpretation of the law, but it's quite clear that they are not open to all seafood companies, only to those in the specific country. In the US, we're now in the US and looking at what the law is there and which are the authorities. Greenwashing is addressed primarily through a combination of federal and state laws, with the Federal Trade Commission, FTC, playing a key role. The FTC's Green Guides provide guidance to business similar to the ASA code on making environmental claims, and the agency can take action against companies that engage in deceptive advertising. Some states, like California, have also passed their own laws to combat greenwashing. The revised Green Guides prohibit the use of general environmental benefit claims, such as green or eco-friendly, explaining that the meaning of such claims could be interpreted in various ways by reasonable consumers. The FTC therefore cautions against making general environmental benefits claims and encourages marketers to appropriately qualify the claim in some way, such as through a clear and conspicuous disclosure or by simply tying the claim to a specific product attribute. Here I bring some examples of how an explanatory claim is more or less likely to be in line with FTC requirements. But also in the EU and the UK, there are similar requirements. So one should also evaluate what type of explanatory claim is more appropriate and what your certification is providing. For example, certified sustainable seafood or certified aquaculture, as used in some of these logos, might be less clear to consumers than a claim saying that the product is certified from sustainable fisheries or certified from sustainable aquaculture. The competent authorities will evaluate on a case by case, but it's definitely need for a specific claim to clarify consumers. Therefore, not only the acronym of the certification, in other words. Many other countries have introduced laws to prevent greenwashing or reinforcing laws on unfair competition and consumers' information. Their requirements and principles often overlap and are similar to those that we have seen for US, UK, EU. And I'm providing here just for your reference some additional information on laws implemented and authorities in charge in other countries, such as Australia and New Zealand, and China and Brazil. These laws seem to be doing the trick. At the end of 2024, a report from Risk revealed a 12% decline in greenwashing cases, which is the first fall in 6 years. The report states that the regulation is likely to have played a role in this downward trend. It is not all good news, though, as the same report revealed severe cases of greenwashing did rise in Europe and in North America. All considered, things are looking a little less deceptive, but that doesn't mean we are out of the phony woods yet. It is estimated, for example, that nearly 60% of sustainability claims by fashion brands are greenwashing. In general, 42% of sustainability claims in all sectors appear to be exaggerated, according to this assessment, false or deceptive. Greenwashing is a pervasive issue in the seafood industry, with many companies and even certification bodies making sometimes misleading or unsubstantiated claims about the environmental friendliness or sustainability of the products. Here are some examples of good and bad, let's say. Several dolphin-safe and dolphin-friendly logos will have to disappear in 2026, if not earlier, or at the latest by 2027, as they are not substantiated by actual audits and certifications. The only one which would pass the test of the EU, UK, and USA authorities would be the Earth Island Institute Dolphin Safe logo that you see here on the right bottom. The Dolphin Safe Tuna project of the Earth Island Institute has been trusted by over 850 companies in 77 countries. Over 500 spot checks and audits are carried out by Earth Island Institute monitors every year, which produce approximately 100 incidents of non-conformances with the Dolphin Safe standards requirements. The project is certified both ISO 9001 and 14001. All other Dolphin Safe statements are not substantiated by Earth Island Institute nor by other NGOs, certification programs, or audits. No third-party audits have also been carried out to verify the pollen line claims. We have been, investigating on this for many years, and the companies themselves confirm that there isn't a third-party verification. It's a company internal declaration. So it is likely that pollen line claims, unless verified by Friend of the Sea or other third party, will be target of authorities to verify they are not, whether it's greenwashing or not. Same goes for FAD-free claims in tuna. FADs are fish aggregating devices. There are claims by some NGOs, and according to some scientific studies, that they have a potential unsustainable impact on the environment. And so FAD-free labels have come out over the years, and most of them are not supported by third-party verification. However, Friend of the Sea, since many years, has developed a FAD-free standard whose compliance is verified by independent certification bodies. At times, SGS, Bureau Veritas have been involved in various oceans and several fishing fleets with transparent certification requirements and audit. WSO and Friend of the Sea have also proposed and are proposing a turtle safe certification for products, in particular shrimps caught without impact on marine turtles, or with by using bycatch mitigation measures. All our logos, all the Friend of the Sea related logos are backed up by certifications, audits carried out by third-party certification bodies in order to be compliant with all the greenwashing prevention regulations. In conclusion, the concern for greenwashing has increased exponentially since the 80s. New and stricter legislation in the EU, USA, UK, and elsewhere have been introduced. Greenwashing infractions fines can be up to 10% of company yearly turnover. At least that's the rule in the UK. Global greenwashing cases have reduced lately by 12%, probably also by the introduction of new legislations. So, but it's important to understand for your knowledge, if you are a seafood company, that the claims must be substantiated by certifications, which have to be approved themselves by the national accreditation bodies. Otherwise, if there's nobody double checking on them, there's a huge risk of conflict of interest. Certifications must be open to all traders, to all seafood companies. So they cannot be local or country level, because that would limit the entrance and the application and would, in other words, generate unfair competition, right? Claims must not be deceptive and describe clearly, as we have seen, the attributes of the certification. Among the examples of greenwashings that are not substantiated in most cases, or in some cases, is dolphin-friendly labels, fat-free, pond line, and in some cases also turtle-safe. So you have to verify that there be a certification to substantiate the claim. Friend of the Sea for fisheries and aquaculture and Global Gap for aquaculture are the only ones, the only certifications that are verified and approved by the national accreditation bodies, which carry out the accreditation of the certification bodies and so on, as I explained. So, looking at the future, you know, what will be the consequences of these new legislations to prevent greenwashing? This is my forecast. Let's say I believe that unsubstantiated claims will disappear, and you see here some examples. And as we already described, national certifications will disappear, will not be allowed anymore. Certifications not approved by IAF recognized accreditation bodies will disappear unless they apply for approval. We know that we hear rumors that some of them are going in that direction. Hopefully they will do as we have done for the past 20 years. So only certifications recognized by IAF, MLA, and verified by official accreditations should and will survive and strive. And currently, the only two ones are, as I said and explained, Friend of the Sea for seafood from fisheries and aquaculture, and Global Gap for aquaculture. So I sincerely hope that all seafood companies will avoid self-declaration in the future and look for certifications approved by the national accreditation bodies, to avoid being involved in unverifiable, unsubstantiated claims and the risk of greenwashing and the consequent fines. We have some questions. Do you think the new demand for certifications will lead all companies to apply, or some will accept not to make claims? Well, most sustainability certification for seafood, which look at the whole process, harvesting, processing, etc., require normally that the stock be well managed and not overexploited, the fishing method must have evidence that it's not impacting the ecosystem. So I believe that still, even if they try, there might be some products which, at least for a few more years, will not be able to achieve the certification. So I suppose that some will refrain from making any claims and hope that the market will accept them as they are. Another question, will there be consequences in terms of environmental and conservation results? I believe that there should be positive consequences, because also the fishing companies and the producers in aquaculture will be more and more keen in doing their best to really try and obtain the certifications and be up to the standard, be compliant. And that we have seen that has already occurred in the past 20 years since this movement has started, together with other stakeholders' contribution, of course. So I think that there will be some positive environmental conservation results, not dramatic ones. There are other factors which must gradually induce the industry to reduce its impact. Is TED, turtle excluder devices, manufacturing companies or device made by fishing companies are checked by the third-party auditors in time to time? Yes, the audit is carried out every year. And so it's an audit which verifies on site the TED, and there's request also for the fishing company to collect, or the fishing vessels or the fleet or the ship owner to collect data, to have in certain cases observers on board, and have a third-party verification of the good working of the TED. So, and these are rarely done by the fishing companies. Normally, it's a third party.
Help our planet with this first step. Follow Friend of the Sea and Friend of the Earth across our social media. Like this video and subscribe to our channel. Your follow and subscription helps us spread the sustainability message to everyone. Let's build a better world together as sustainable friends.